Been to Columbia before, and it's kind of cool that we would be the first to ever do vacation Bible school.
I guess I just wanted a different perspective before going into college. I wanted to really get my priorities straight.
Did you prepare for the mission?
So we tried to learn some Creole, fairly unsuccessfully, because until you get there, it's kind of hard to really
practice.
Yeah, and pronunciate.
They speak so
Yeah.
fast too that even if you know some of it, you can only pick out words because they speak it differently than we learned it. Almost, they leave out just like we do.
Yeah.
Like our slang.
I guess I do think going over the basic words beforehand was helpful before we got there.
And how to pronounce it.
Right, yeah.
At the beginning, I didn't feel like I knew a lot, but then by the end of it, I felt like I learned a lot just in that week.
Because you had taken French in
Yeah.
high school, that helped a bunch. Okay.
We also kind of were able to go over the lessons and get an idea of what exactly we would be teaching the Haitians.
Mhm.
By making binders and gathering supplies and organizing them. Also a lot of fundraising. So.
And we prepared each night before the next day to make sure that we had everything ready to try and go as planned. We quickly learned that things ran by island time. And we would say, okay, we're going to be at 8. And it would be like 8:45 before meeting started. That was it. Okay. How did the prep help you?
Just organized.
Yeah, the organization of it all, so that at least we had an idea, because it's kind of hard to think of people never before doing like a Bible camp, and they didn't even know how to do skits before, and so
having all the supplies and everything ready really helped a lot, because then you could just kind of hand out the materials that needed and then just kind of go from there. I mean, you weren't always scrounging, so that was good.
And it was nice to know exactly what you had to do, because sometimes, they're kids and you can't translate things exactly perfectly to them. So the preparation of even though it was not perfect Creole translations, that the teachers could at least read it and see what they could do with it.
It also was beneficial each night to kind of go over the lesson the next day more in depth, so that we could teach the Haitian leaders how to teach the lessons.
And how were you able to do that without speaking Creole?
Well, you kind of have to think ahead and think of hand motions that you might use, or which interpreter you might go through to explain it. Because obviously we can't explain it directly to the Haitian leaders because of the language barrier.
But it worked, right?
Right,
Yeah.
it definitely worked.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay,
Go.
my first initial reaction when you come in, you go through it's almost like you're going to hit the water, and then you see all the shacks on the side, and it's that's crazy. Because when you fly into Atlanta, it's all suburbs and trees, and there's no trees that you can see even on the mountains. So I don't think anything can prepare you for that initial kind of shock. And then you get into the airport and it's kind of normal. It's very sporadically placed in long lines. But then as soon as you step out of the airport, it's crazy.
Chaos.
Complete chaos. Everybody wants to help you. Everybody wants your money. Everybody wants to take your suitcase. Not take it, but help you with it.
Just cut it off.
They don't want to steal anything. But I mean, we had like 3 people say, "I know where you're going. I know who's helping you," and then, but in all reality, they had no idea. They just passed us to the next person.
Yeah, so I think there was definitely like a huge culture difference to get used to at first, and even just being on the streets for the first time with like all the traffic and the cars and getting used to that whole pattern. I think that we were all kind of relieved when we finally arrived at the Matthew 25 house and got a chance to breathe for a little bit. So.
Your travel to Gomorn.
Like this.
I mean, I was surprised by how good the highway was, how it's well
It was like
maintained.
this too.
To go naive, it was a pretty easy and smooth ride, but after we got through go naive, it was pretty rugged, not paved.
I mean, they have like on Winnie Road here, you have like the double line and then the dotted whatever
For
line
passing.
for passing, and nobody really does that here. But there, it was all like slam on your brakes, speed up, go around.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were flying around. So, but it was just crazy to see to be driving and there be nothing except for like a few houses up on a hill, and all of a sudden everything was packed into one little area. And then you get out and it's like you stop and start and stop and start, and then you get out of that and you're going like 50, 70 between that again, and then 20 minutes later you hit another like tiny little miniature city. So
But driving like that, did they get mad at each other?
no.
I guess 'cause
What if you-
everyone
if-
drove like that, and they knew that they were gonna do something like that later, so that
I mean,
So if you tried
lost.
to drive like that here, what would happen?
be arrested.
Yeah.
Well, not only arrested, but what?
You'd probably be dead.
Probably.
Yeah.
But how would other people react to you?
Get angry.
Oh my gosh.
Angry honking.
Yeah, and they used their horns just to like let people know they were there. It wasn't even like when I first heard it, like outside the Matthew 25 house, because we were on like kind of a blinded like 3-way stop, and every time I'd hear a horn, at first I'd turn and look and see if something had happened, but they were just warning that they were going, and eventually you got kind of used to the horns. But I mean, I always assumed when I heard it that something had happened, so I would look at first, but there's only one car there.
What was your day? What is your day-to-day work like in Gomorn for the Bible camp?
Well, we woke up at like 5:45 to go run in the morning. Some of us. Sometimes some people wouldn't respond. Sometimes they would just grumble. And then we would eat breakfast together.
Usually take a cold shower if we didn't take one that night.
Yeah. And then we would walk to the Bible camp, which was always an experience.
And right when we walked through the front gates, like the school, the kids would just automatically come and try to help us with whatever we had, or try to hold our hands and lead us in. So,
Why was the walk to the Bible camp an experience?
That particular area was very, very poor.
It wasn't paved.
There'd be trash piles burning in the street that you'd have to sidestep.
Yeah, dogs. There's skinny dogs around. I mean, everybody's just outside. At when we would start our run at 6, there would be a few people out, and then by the time we came back at 6:30, there would be everybody was awake, and it's crazy because I don't wake up until 8 here. So yeah.
Where was the school? Or where was the Bible camp held?
at the poorest school in the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's Guadalupe.
Yeah. And so what was that? What what did that school look like?
Not like a school.
It was 2 or 3 buildings that were just small and just like a classroom. It wasn't.
Yeah. It's
kind of like you see in pictures, like the open air classrooms, the screen around.
Playground?
No playground.
And when you first walked in, there wasn't a sign. It was half of a sign. And then you had to walk in, and there were, I think we didn't use the two buildings at the front, but they were like carpentry and sewing. And then it was just like,
How was the
And you
path?
basically
Yeah.
walk
Yeah.
through like a trash little
it
section.
wasn't even trash. It was like gravel and like it almost looked like the broken up sign.
Yeah, kind of like a steep ravine.
And if you did look to the right, that's where they put all their trash. They just dumped it out over there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When you're in those classrooms, you can only imagine what it's like during the school year because
Yeah, we had 100 kids.
Right, we had 100
Yeah,
kids, but
how
how
many
many
kids?
go there usually? Like
180.
180. You can just imagine them all,
Yeah.
sitting on the desks.
Yeah. Well, they
Crammed
they
in the
they used
buildings.
those two buildings we didn't get to use.
True.
It's still packed there.
Yeah. And they know how to sit in those.
Yeah, as soon as they go into the classroom, they just all scrunch together.
And they all try and sit in the first few rows. So there's like 5 of them in a place that's supposed to be like for 2 or 3.
During the Bible camp, the days kind of varied. There was some days that we would end at like 11, and some days we'd end at like 2. So it was just a very busy, very kind of chaotic day, but it was good.
Depended on when the food was made and when the food was ready.
But normally we would start with an assembly where the director would get everybody in a big circle in the middle of like all the school buildings, and we would do like music, both in English and sometimes in Creole, and so we would all sing and teach them the words and the hand motions, and then we would also usually do a skit after that. So
Who
the
did
Haitian
the skit?
volunteers put on a skit, and they would all dress up as the different circus animals that the Bible camp required, and they did a really good job. So it was really neat to watch.
The skit was ongoing too, so each day was a continuation of the previous day. So it was basically one long skit, kind of broken into sections.
And the skit taught the lesson of the day as well. Yeah.
Then we would move on, like we had different groups. So we would move on and do a faith lesson with a story, a Bible lesson with an activity, like usually a coloring sheet of some sort.
Did it relate?
Yes, it all related to each other. Then we'd have like an activity, some more music, and a craft. That was usually some kind of coloring that they really don't have there. So,
And then after all the kids had been fed, then it was usually time to go home, so they would circle up for the last time, and the director would tell them anything else that they needed to know for the next day and remind them to wear their t-shirts.
and then he'd blow a whistle and they'd all run out the gate. All at once.
Yeah. Whenever we had any free time, I was, I guess, lucky enough to be able to play soccer with some of the kids. And that was chaotic, but it was really fun. The first day I had no clue what they were all saying to me, but they were all trying to grab me and like they were yelling at me something, and I asked one of the translators to come over and he told me that they were all wanting to be on my team and that they wanted me to pick the team, and I was just like, So the rest
Jouer Jacques.
and yeah, they would always try to get me to play whenever they started playing, so it was really fun.
What happened after Bible camp?
After we went to the Bible camp, we would all either go take naps or just lay down for about a couple hours, just like regain some energy because we were all worn out.
Yeah. So Bible camp was from 8 to 12, except for the first day, which was from 8 to about 2 because of the whole check-in process. But basically, after camp was over at 12 each day, we would just all go back and rest for the rest of the day before we went to bed.
Yeah, because you had to prepare again.
Yeah.
And then on a few walks.
And I suppose it could seem like afternoon, like you didn't really do much, but at the same time, I think it was really necessary to gain that rest and the energy for the next day, because then you were at your best.
Mhm.
And I think that was really important.
Well, you did walk though, some, and that was kind of cool. Why? You run into some of the kids from the Bible camp. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we would be done resting, then there at the place we were staying, there's a really nice roof that you could look over and see everything basically from there. And it was just really nice because after we ate dinner, we typically go up there and sometimes plan up there or sometimes plan down there. But there was always a really nice breeze coming at night from when you sit on the roof. It was beautiful.
It's a good prayer spot.
It was a good prayer spot.
Yeah, I think initially when you get to Gomorrah, there's that feeling of kind of like overwhelmingness and like panic in a way, but that rooftop was really kind of like a home for your heart, I think. Yeah.
Every night we had a prayer service. I enjoyed that, just to kind of remind ourselves why we were there. Was to teach people about the Bible.
I mean, we were staying in kind of a nice house for being there. That had 2 stories, wasn't just like a one room, and but it's still, you were outside basically. I mean, it had windows with bars, kind of, but you could hear everything. And like next door was like a carpenter, and it was really loud. And then, I mean, our rooms, the girls' room was in the back, and it was just, there was like barely any breeze through it, and it was so hot, you know. I mean, you were basically outside. We all had fans, well, kind of. And then, I mean, so going up to the roof, it was still loud, just as loud as inside. But, yeah, and getting to overlook and feel like you're part of it. Well, the same amount of kids seemed to show up every day, so that was good that they liked it after the first day. But it was kind of sad at the end. I don't know if the kids realized that it was the last day, because, I mean, they just blew the whistle and they all just ran out. And for us, we wanted to say bye to the ones that especially had touched our hearts, and they were just kind of gone.
Okay, go.
When we showed up the first day, we had no idea what to expect. And we had kind of been warned that they don't show up on time. So we weren't really expecting very many kids the first day. And as soon as even before, really, 8 o'clock, there were like, gosh, like 50 kids there.
Yeah, at least.
And then there had to have been more than, I mean, there were more than 100.
It's probably like 150 there, I would say. 'Cause
Yeah.
A lot of kids had to leave because we didn't have enough.
And so we would call their names the first time over. Well, first he was just sending them after he said okay to sit in a circle. And then after a little while, he realized that the younger siblings, or the older siblings, were just sitting with the brothers and sisters. So we went over and we had to call them each to give them a shirt. And it was still, we went through one door and they were pushing and shoving, and some people were trying to come in the side door, and it was just chaotic. And then some of the kids didn't like the size of their shirts, but we couldn't give the bigger ones smaller shirts because the smaller ones wouldn't have shirts. And I mean, one kid, I remember, father was like, okay, he said the name, and to make sure he was the right kid, he said, what's your last name? And the kid didn't know his last name. So he had to turn around and run out, and then he had to fight to get back in because he remembered his last name. And the age was supposed to be 5 through 12. And there was a girl who was 17, and she said she was 14. And then there was a couple kids that got in that couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old. And so then every day you would have kids sit along the side that would slowly creep in that didn't have a t-shirt. And as soon as the kids in the camp noticed they didn't have a t-shirt, they would call them out. And they'd be like, no, get them out. So that was interesting. So I think the result was good because we had people there that weren't supposed to be there. So
Also, on the last day, like after, like Sadie talked about how the kids just kind of left and didn't really realize. I remember sitting up on the rooftop that night, and all I hear is, Jack, 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 and I turn over and look at the corner, and there's about 4 or 5 of the kids just dancing and like screaming all of our names, and it was really cool to see them afterwards because they were so excited to see us. They were so happy to see us. They really wanted us to come down, but
So like Sadie said, some kids who weren't actually in the Bible camp were in the school grounds, just kind of hanging out and watching the camp because they didn't really have anything else to do. So I guess maybe friends of a couple of those people gave some of their food to the people who were in the camp, and they just had it in their hands. They were just eating it right from their hands, rice and beans. That was kind of an interesting sight.
I had a little boy. We used plastic cups for drinking the first couple days. I had a little boy just take, like, he was one kid that after the meals, anybody that had anything left would pile it onto his plate, and he would eat as much as he could, and then he would take whatever was left, which was usually he usually ended up with like a plate full of food, and then like piled on top like that high, because people would just give him his leftovers. He started filling up the plastic cups to take it back to his family, and he would have like 3 or 4 plastic cups, and he'd be holding them, and then he would just take the plastic cups home to whoever.
I noticed some kids would get their spoons and they'd all be sharing out of the one plate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But our ultimate goal was to bring the community together and have Haitians teaching Haitians the Bible camp, because obviously we can't speak Creole, we can't teach them, but also it's a good thing for the Haitians to actually be the ones teaching. And I feel like we definitely accomplished that. Definitely brought the community together and let them do their thing, and we just kind of sat back and gave them the supplies they needed to do that.
And that was really beautiful to watch it unfold, and watching all of them, kind of like grow in their own way and discover their own true talents. So
And the leaders, see
Yeah.
some of those leaders, and everybody, I felt, worked well together. And there was
And
no-
realized that they could do it. Because at first they were like, we can't do that. And as soon as they realized, how simple it really is.
it was really empowering for them.
You could definitely tell that volunteers enjoyed doing what they were doing. They enjoyed being there and teaching those kids, even though they knew they weren't going to get paid.
Which they did in the end, but they didn't know it.
Right.
None of us knew it. But since we had some left over, that was great. What are our Haitian brothers and sisters like? And what'd you learn from them?
Well, I had the experience of being sick. And I guess the second day that I was sick, there was like a window in our room, and when the cook came and she started talking to me, but I couldn't understand it. So then she started motioning to her stomach, and I was like, yeah. And then she came back with a tea, and she basically, from what I could understand, was like, you have to drink this, you have to drink this. So that was the one thing that helped my stomach feel better. And it was just kind of cool that she couldn't speak to me. She had no idea what was wrong. But she, out of the kindness of her heart, she prepared that for me. And later we found out that is a very Haitian tea to have, because it's like a herb. Yeah.
No, the mozinga tree.
Yeah. So, didn't taste very good, but it helped. And she made it for me, and then later my mom. She made it for me multiple times. And then the kids, it was nice to, I didn't even expect it, but when I got back from being sick, they were like, oh, we prayed for you, like, we're so glad you're back. And it was just kind of heartwarming to know that, I had seen them for like 4 hours on one day, and they remembered, so.
They have these incredible hearts of service, I think, that we could all learn from. Just watching how animated the Haitian volunteers were, and how they really were just not in it for themselves. And then, like Sadie's story, I think it all just kind of sums up in the way that they all serve each other, and like especially within like that family setting.
Yeah, it's big on community because they might not have the phones, the TVs, the 3-story houses with furniture and the safety of it all, but at least they have each other. Kind of cool at night. There were very few lights at night. They had street lights on about every corner, and that you could see from the roof that that's where everybody went at night, around those lights. And that was kind of cool to see the community there, that in this huge city they all were kind of in their own little tiny communities. So
I think you also learn a sense of purpose, or at least that's what I kind of learned. Because I think that they show you that you have something to offer that's your own. I don't think I really realized that before. Like you actually do have something special of your own that's like a God-given talent, and that you can really give to other people, and that it's not anybody else's, and they can't take that away from you, but that's like really your own. So that's what I took away from it.
What about their dress and mask?
All of the guys wore pants, which we weren't quite aware of the first time we went to mass, because we had shorts on. Me and Jack did.
I didn't bring pants. It was Haiti. I didn't think I needed pants.
They're definitely very reverent. Every Sunday, everyone really dresses up for mass. You can definitely tell it's Sunday because everyone is walking around in their Sunday best.
It's crazy because they're all in like long sleeves and pants, and it's like 90 degrees outside.
all the girls wore, knee-length dresses or nice slacks and heels and hats. Yeah, they were, they respected more than we, I think I do sometimes here with what I wear to church. And the sheer volume of everybody singing. They had, when we went Sunday, the first in Grimoire, they had a piano, and they had some music, but everybody sang. But then when we went in Port-au-Prince, the church had been torn down, and somebody was volunteering, or the church had fallen down in the earthquake. Somebody was volunteering their yard, and but all they had were bongo drums, and everybody was singing. And even throughout the day when we were at the Matthew 25 house, you could hear all the different, even if it wasn't a mass, it was some kind of church community, and you could hear it. And you probably at any hour you could hear a church service on Sunday. Yeah.
Spiritual.
And I think that it's kind of cool. They're, everything they do is kind of loud. But, it's not, it was kind of comforting. It wasn't like a annoying kind of loud. It was like people are around and they're living.
What about the length of Mass and what they include, which is different?
They sing a lot. And it's all really loud too, and it's really beautiful. And Mass is typically at least 2 hours long, because they sing so much. Whenever they get a break from anything, they want to sing.
And the sermon is at least 30 minutes long. And he preaches before, and then afterwards they don't have bulletins. So they announce everything that's going on and everything that they're doing that week and everybody's birthday. And they sing happy birthday at the end of Mass, and they wanted us to say happy birthday to somebody in America because they knew somebody in America. So,
one of their parishioners would happen to be in America.
Yeah, so they wanted us to tell them happy birthday when we got back.
Okay, go ahead.
So I guess I would recommend going, everybody should go on a mission trip, I think, at least once, to get perspective. But I think if we were to change anything, we would do more preparation the day before on the Sunday, just to make sure that everything's set and organized. And that way we have more time to actually focus on the Bible camp on the Monday that's starting from Sunday.
No, you guys were prepared and we were waiting.
Right.
So it was more of that the Haitians needed to be more, which they had said, that they'll be prepared on Sunday beforehand.
Yeah, more organizing, with the Asian teams.
It's nice to have a plan, because you have to be able to change it and think on your feet, because it's just what God's plan is, not your plan. And I think that's what we've learned a lot.
And without any anger or frustrations so much, everything worked out. Even though it was chaotic, it all kind of fell into place.
Patience is key.
What?
Patience is key sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that in America we don't have as much as the Haitians do there.
And it's not much about what we can bring them. It's about what they can do for each other once we leave. So giving them all the supplies, they can now do the Bible camp if they wanted to on their own.
Kind of teaches me to live simply, and we have all these things that all these material things that can get in the way of our relationships, which are what really matter. And being in Haiti, you can see how how relationships matter a lot. So learned a lot from that.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's the only thing that you can really take with you. When you go to heaven, is those relationships and those wonderful things that you've been able to do on earth. And I find myself getting frustrated here a lot of the time if my brother's off playing video games, and I just want to spend time with them now. So I think that it's really, like what Austin said, it's really important to just have a good relationship.